Hi everyone, we're going to learn how to find the slope of a line. We're going to pretend that this is a ladder against a building. So I'll make this a building here. These are buildings and there's a ladder against it. And you're talking about slope. You're talking about how steep or flat is the slope, and we can put a numerical value. So this is a ladder that's very steep. I call this ladder A, B, and C. And you notice that when we get to ladder C, it's not as steep as ladder A, and B is in the middle. And how you find slope is the change in Y over the change of X. We did this a little bit in the last video. We call this the rise over the run. The rise is your up or down, that's your Y. And your run is your right or left, that is your X. And we're also going to use different notation. We're going to call slope M, change in, or let's put a change in here. We're going to use delta. So it's like spelled delta. It's a Greek symbol, capital D, delta, and it's a triangle. So mathematicians don't like to write, so we're going to write that the slope equals the change in Y over the change in X. So let's do some problems. I have some graphs here and I want to find the slope. So this first one, we're going to do the change in Y over the change in X. This point here is 2, 1. This point is supposed to go through 0, is 0, 0. So from these 2 points, I'm going to do the change in Y, which is your up and down. So we're going up 1. So my slope is going to be up 1 over my run. And I'm going to the right 2. If you go to the right, it's positive. So my slope is 1/2. Now this one, I have 2 points here. This point is called 2, 0. And this one right here is called 1, 2. And I'm just going to kind of figure out my rise over run, my change in Y over my change in X. Well, I'm going up 2, that's positive, but I'm going to the left 1, that's negative. So my slope equals -2. Now, it's very useful to know when you have the linear equations or the lines drawn to know if your slope is positive or negative, and then you don't make a mistake. The first one is like an airplane. If it's like the airplane taking off. If the airplane is taking off, that's going to be a positive slope. If you see the line going down like this, like an airplane is landing, that's a negative slope. So it's very useful to remember that. So when you're doing your algebraic calculations, you can do a double check. Now this one, this is number 3, this is 2. I'm going to pick 2 points here. So I'm going to pick this one and this one. This point is -1, 2. And this one is 2, 2. Now, I need to do the change in Y. But if you notice here, we're not going up and down. So my change in Y equals 0. And now I need to do my change in X. My change in X is we're going from -1 to 2. So that's 1, 2, 3 over 3. Well, 0 over 3 equals 0. This has a 0 slope. So a horizontal line, this is Y equals 2, has a 0 slope. Okay, on this one, I'll pick 2 points. This is -2, 0, and this one's negative 2 comma 2. Notice right away this is not a function. It doesn't pass the vertical line test because it isn't a vertical line. Negative 2 is paired both to 2 and 0 and to everything else. If you could, everywhere, you know, negative 2 is going to be paired to. So it's not a function. But let's calculate the slope. The slope is change in y over the change in x. Well, the change in y from these 2 points I decided to pick is 2. But the change in x, we aren't going left or right. So that's 0. You can't divide by 0. So the slope of this line is undefined. I'm not going to write it out. I'm just going to write, okay, I'll write it out. Undefined. All right, so there's 3 kind of slopes you need to know. You need to know the positive slope, which is number 1, the negative slope, which is number 2, the 0 slope, which is number 3, and the undefined slope, that is number 4. Those are the 4 that you're going to run into. And you need to kind of know what they look like. Okay, so we're going to use the slope formula to find the slope of the line that passes through these points. So I have 2 points here, and I'm just going to do this algebraically. You have 2 comma 3 and 9 comma 7. And what I'm going to do is call these points 1, point 1 equals 2 comma 3, and point 2 is 9 comma 7. And point 1, these are called index numbers. So I'm going to call this x1 comma y1. And this one is going to be x sub 2 and y sub 2. And once you have that settled, you could call, it doesn't matter which point's first or second, but just depends how you label it. I'm going to use this formula. So y sub 2 is 7 minus y sub 1, which is 3, over x of 2, which is 9, minus 2. Now, 7 minus 3 is 4. 9 minus 2 is 7. So my slope is 4/7. Okay? Now, if I were to graph this quickly, let's see if I can graph it. I'm going to plot the points 2, 3, and 9, 7. So I'm going to go 2, 3, 4. All the way here. That's 9 up to 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why did I pick big numbers? All right, and I'm going to graph this very quickly. So basically it means we went up 4 and over 7. Okay? So it's up 4 over 7. Okay, so the next one's, let's do another one. Let's find the slope of the line that goes from negative 3 comma negative 4 and 5 comma negative 1. So I'm going to call this x of 1, y sub 1. I'm going to let this be point 1, and point 2 is this one. So that's going to be x sub 2 minus y sub 2. And my change in y over change of x, which happens to be the slope, equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And you just plug it in. So we have negative 1 minus a negative 4 over 5 minus a negative 3. Well, when you have 2 negatives here, that's a positive, so I'm going to clean that up. Negative 1 plus 4 over 5 plus 3. That gives you 3 over 8. It's a positive slope, and so it should be like an airplane taking off. All right, so I'm going to plot these points, negative 3, negative 4, and 5, negative 1. Try to connect these as good as I can. So that means we went up 3, that's positive 3, and to the right 8, positive 8. And there's where you get your slope. The next video is going to be finding the value of a point given a slope. So they're going to give you, the next video is going to be like this. You're going to get 5 and some y sub 1 and 2, negative 3 as your points, and they're going to give you the slope, say equals 4/3, and we're going to try to find y.